Hey, welcome to SI Now. It is Thursday, January 12th, and I'm Maggie Gray. So happy to have you with us. Coming up, a former GM weighs in on the Chargers' move to LA, and we'll tell you if the World Cup expanding will help the U.S. men's national team. But first, All-Star campaigns are in full swing, and the Charlotte Hornets got creative this year with a unique twist on an old classic.
In the eyes of the Ranger, he's an NBA game changer. He'll cross you over left to right. Cause the eyes of the Ranger are upon you. And an all-star bid is what you'll see. If you're in Charlotte, you'll know one thing. The all-star game is where he's meant to be.
All right, and joining me now is the Charlotte Hornets point guard, Kemba Walker. All right, Kemba, be honest. Did you know about Walker, Texas Ranger, the old TV series starring Chuck Norris?
Yeah, I did. I knew about it. My dad used to watch it back in the day, so.
Well, my favorite part of this whole thing is when you do the kick, the backwards kick. How did you make this character your own? How did you add your own spin to it?
I just try to have a little fun with it. It's hard to, kind of relive, what he did, but it was just a lot of fun, and especially with my teammates, helping me out with it. We had a blast doing it.
Yeah, Frank Kaminsky loves the camera. We can tell. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist never shying away, and also Spencer Hawes, who actually wrote the song. So Kemba, if you do get an All-Star invite, how can you repay Spencer Hawes for his contribution?
I'm not sure, but I'll figure it out. I'm not sure, but I'll definitely figure it out.
Okay, so we have a little maybe idea for you. You're in 9th place right now in All-Star voting for guards. Have you thought about asking the famous owner of the Charlotte Hornets, of course, Michael Jordan, to help you campaign for votes?
Not at all. Not at all. I don't think I would ever ask him to, help campaign. That's not what he's here for. That's really just up to the fans.
Okay, well, he's like one of the most famous people in the world. So if you need a boost, he could be someone who comes in, the ringer, so to speak. Of course, you're going to face the 76ers on Friday. So who's mounting the better All-Star campaign? Is it you or is it Joel Embiid?
Probably Embiid. Probably Embiid. He's a great young talent. And he's showing the world how good he is, especially the way he has the Sixers playing right now. We know how that team has been over the last couple of years. So, for him to, come back and, have those guys playing the way they're playing this year, that's pretty cool.
Kemba, yesterday on Twitter, the team dropped a montage of your early years playing hoops. And I'd love to know, when you look back on those highlights, what kind of emotions does that bring out in you?
It brings back a lot of memories for sure, especially in high school. My high school's closed down, so it definitely brings back some special memories. Some of the best years I've had in my life, in that school. So, it's really cool, to see those over the years.
Yeah, and of course, winning the national championship at UConn as well. A lot of good memories. Your team hovering really between 6th and 8th place in the standings right about now. If the team is going to find that next gear and start climbing in those standings, what has to happen?
We just have to be consistent. We have to be consistent. We are on both ends of the floor, but more specifically the defensive end. We play in spurts a lot, and as a leader of this team, that starts with me. So, each and every night I have to go out there and set a tone for my teammates, and we just have to be playing at a high level each and every night, and hopefully we can start that next game. We want to go out and we want to be as good as we can be on the defensive end, and hopefully that helps our overall game.
Finally, message to the voters. Kemba Walker, a lot of good guards in the East. Why should fans vote for you?
Just because I go out and give it my all each and every night. But of course, that's their decision to make. But if they watch, they know. I'm not really asking anyone to vote for me, but if they would like to, I wouldn't mind it, of course.
On acting skills alone, Kemba, I think you're going to get a few votes as we're watching here with Walker, Charlotte Ranger. It's a lot of fun. We appreciate your time, Kemba Walker. Good luck against the 76ers on Friday, and good luck in trying to make your first All-Star game. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. We knew this day was coming, but Wednesday it became official. The San Diego Chargers will be moving to Los Angeles. For some perspective on the deal, let's welcome in former NFL general manager and NFL Network analyst Charlie Casserly. And Charlie, let's start with the fans. Do you think the Chargers fans will stick with the team, or will the Chargers have to go out and develop a whole new fan base?
Yeah, I think over a period of time that the fan base in San Diego will gradually erode, and they'll have to develop a new fan base in L.A. I mean, it's 120 miles, and that can be a long 120 miles to travel, even if it's 8 times a year or 10 times a year, counting preseason. So eventually that is something they're going to have to develop in L.A., and that's going to be a challenge because L.A. Couldn't support 2 teams before. And now I know there'll be a new stadium, but that'll wear off in time.
Yeah, so with that in mind, and you mentioned there were 2 teams in LA before, they both left in the 90s. How do we know that this is going to be a successful venture for the Chargers?
Well, we don't. Basically, Alex Spanos did not want to move. Okay, excuse me. Dean Spanos did not want to move. I'm sure Alex didn't either, but Dean's running the team now. And, they took a long time to come to this point. And I think the last thing they ever wanted to do was to move as a renter, which is what they are. So a renter to another NFL team, not to a city. So this is not an easy decision for them to make. San Diego, I'm sure, had opportunities somewhere in there to make a deal, and it didn't get done.
Put yourself in the shoes of the general managers of both the Rams, but specifically for the Chargers, actually. Are you feeling pressure to find a marketable player? Are you feeling pressure to make a splashy move after something like this?
Well, it would be nice if you could, but you can't force it. If it's not there, don't do it. Clearly, L.A. Is a star city. And, when Gretzky came, Beckman came, I mean, those were stars with franchises that weren't necessarily in immensely popular sports. I mean, the Lakers for years always had stars, going back to Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson and Kobe Bryant. But ultimately, you've got to win. If you win, then you're going to be able to put people in the stands.
Yeah, and, both teams now are also looking for head coaches. What's the more appealing situation for a coaching candidate? Is it the Rams or is it the Chargers?
Well, the Chargers have more talent right now, especially when you look at offense. And Phillip Rivers, he still has gas in the tank. Now, he tailed off the end of last year, but I still think he can play pretty good football. And they've got some pass rushers, and they've got some cover guys. So San Diego right now is ahead of the curve as far as the talent goes. The L.A. is short a first-round pick, short a third-round pick, and, we've got to see whether Goff can play or not. So San Diego would be ahead of the curve to me when you compare them to the Rams talent-wise.
Okay, let's look around the league. Want to get your thoughts on some other head coaching news and 2 hires that were made on Wednesday. Denver lands Vance Joseph, and Buffalo turns to Sean McDermott. Both of these men, rookie head coaches. And in both cases, Charlie, there's a lot of work to be done, especially on the offensive side of the ball. How much power will these rookie head coaches have when it comes to hiring their staff and, perhaps more importantly, determining who their quarterbacks are going to be?
Well, again, I don't know what their contracts look like. Traditionally, head coaches hire their staffs. I know that's not universal, but it should be universal. And generally, the trend is for the general manager to have the final say on the roster, but the head coach to have significant improvement. Now, on the staff, I think the head coach has to have total control of that. On the roster, technically, whoever has it is not as important as the 2 people working together in a joint effort to make sure that the general manager gets the players that the coach has that will fit his system, then the coach has to do a good job of being flexible and willing to roll over that bottom part of the roster to keep trying to find players that can keep improving the football team. So it's certainly going to be a joint effort. And I think going into Denver, it's clear that Paxton Lynch is their guy right now, and they want to develop him, and that's going to be the plan. Buffalo, it's a different story. Tyrod Taylor has a contract that probably he's not worth. They don't have an alternate. There's not many alternates out there. So, and I don't think Taylor is ultimately the answer, but he's better than their alternates right now. Somehow they try to find a compromise on his contract would be the ideal situation.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye out for that. As for someone in the Bills division, that would be the Patriots. Both of their coordinators are interviewing for head coaching jobs. And Charlie, I'm curious, do GMs grade Bill Belichick disciples differently than other candidates, just considering how successful Belichick has been?
Well, but not only, but his disciples have not necessarily been successful. Eric Mangini had a number of jobs there, and wasn't able to finish it in New York, and Cleveland didn't go as well. And I'm not sure it was fair that he got fired in either one of them. But so be it. When you look at Josh McDaniels, Denver didn't go well. It's that simple. I don't count Bill O'Brien because Bill O'Brien was only really there 2 years, and he didn't grow up in that school. So, yeah, I don't think there's any question some teams look at it from the point of view of in the interview. How much control do they want? How flexible are they? How are they willing to work with other people? That's really the discussion in the interviews. It's not so much they work for Bill Belichick and some other guys weren't successful. It's how much control, how much are they willing to work with people, be flexible in their system. That's really the issues that come up in the interviews.
Very interesting. Charlie Casserly giving us a behind-the-scenes view of what goes on in the front office. Charlie, we really appreciate your time. Love watching you on NFL Network, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Okay, great to be with you now.
Thank you. To a disturbing story from the world of gymnastics. Dr. Larry Nasser, an athletic trainer who is currently in jail after being charged with 3 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct with a person younger than 13, as well as attempting to receive and send child pornography, is at the center of yet another lawsuit. On Wednesday, 18 more women filed a civil suit against not only Nasser, but USA Gymnastics, Michigan State University, and the gymnastics club Twistars in East Lansing for gross negligence. Michael McCann is SI's legal analyst. He joins me now. Michael, putting Nasser, the perpetrator, just aside for a moment, how strong is the case against USA Gymnastics and Michigan State University?
Well, Maggie, it remains to be seen how strong the evidence is, but certainly the allegation that the university and the athletic organizations involved didn't take adequate steps to make sure that these young women were protected from someone who's now accused of being a pedophile. And it's very important that when courts review the evidence, that they look at what steps were taken. Were reasonable steps taken? Were the steps taken in compliance with Title IX, for example? Was enough resources deployed to make sure that witnesses were interviewed in a way where they could speak candidly? There are a series of steps involved, and it remains to be seen whether or not the defendants took any or all of them.
Who could be held responsible for allowing this to happen for, Michael, this is going back now 20 years in some cases?
That's right. So there's always the possibility that the statute of limitations involved could limit the extent of time in which there can be recovery on a civil lawsuit. But setting that issue aside for a moment, certainly any athletic organization that retained Dr. Nasser and that presumably checked his references, that interviewed him, that periodically reviewed his work, and as part of that review, making sure that his patients were treated well. Were any of these steps taken? We don't know yet, but it certainly could turn out that not enough steps were taken to make sure that he was being monitored. Just because he's a doctor, I think sometimes we think, well, doctors, they know what they're doing. We're just going to let them do whatever they're doing. But, we're children in this case, and extra duties are necessary to make sure that there aren't any improprieties. We know that this has happened in the past in other contexts. It's incumbent upon any entity that retained him to work with these young women, girls at the time, make sure that they took the steps to ensure their safety.
Absolutely. When you look at Michigan State, though, can't help but think about what happened at Penn State with the football program and the severe penalties that resulted for the school. What is on the line for Michigan State?
Well, Michigan State certainly has civil liability on the line, where if these lawsuits play out in a way that shows liability, they could be on the hook for millions, maybe even tens of millions of dollars, depending upon the number of women that are involved. It wouldn't surprise me if a settlement is reached at some point if the university concludes that they may have erred along the way. Often cases like these end in settlements, and Penn State ended in a settlement. There's always, of course, the possibility of the NCAA looking into it. Were there any athletic administration issues that were potentially raised as a source of concern? Now, the NCAA, some would say, overstepped its grounds with Penn State, and they encountered legal issues before judges over that issue. But I'm sure the NCAA is at least monitoring the extent to which the athletic administration acted properly.
Oh, this story, unfortunately, not going away anytime soon. We'll be monitoring it. Michael McCann, thank you for joining us to clear up some of the legalese that comes with a story like this. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Maggie.
Huge news from the world of soccer. The World Cup is expanding from 32 teams to 48, but not until the year 2026. Grant Wall is SI's senior soccer writer. He joins me now. Listen, 2026 sounds far away. It's going to be here any moment. Bottom line, is this move better or worse for the U.S. men's national team?
If you are purely self-interested in the United States, it's probably not a terrible thing. It means that the U.S. will qualify for every World Cup now. That, right now there's a chance that they may miss World Cup 2018 after their bad start in the hexagonal. So I guess that's good. I also think it becomes, with this new format in the 48-team World Cup, a situation where you're going to have more surprise teams advance because more things are relying on one game, and fluky things can happen in soccer, bad referee calls. It seems to happen more in soccer than in other sports where the better team doesn't always win. So you might see the U.S. or Mexico looking at easier opponents in the knockout rounds, which are now moving to 32 teams, and maybe have a chance to get further in the tournament.
Okay. I can't help but think we're not all that far removed from a FIFA scandal that was worldwide and incredibly embarrassing. In some ways, does expanding the World Cup open the door for more potential shady business?
Well, potentially. I mean, part of the reason this is being done is to bring more money into FIFA, and that will happen. The TV rights will go up, there will be more games, more sponsorships. That's part of Gianni Infantino's plan as the new FIFA president. So I think it's really up to Gianni Infantino to ensure that more and better safeguards are put on the individual countries that receive this money, because a lot of the shadiest people in world soccer are the presidents of these national federations around the world, and most of those are still in power who were there during the FIFA scandals. So I think that's a hugely important thing for Gianni Infantino. In terms of the expansion itself, I don't like it overall. I think there's a couple good things about it in the sense of it makes the World Cup more inclusive, more African teams, more Asian teams will come in. That's not a bad thing necessarily. I don't like the format that they're going to have here, which is 16 groups of 3 teams. It creates a situation where there's going to be more incentives for 0-0 ties if you're a team that isn't very talented. You're going to see potentially a situation where the final game of the group, because there's not simultaneous group games anymore, the 2 teams might agree and be incentivized to both just lay down so that they can both advance at the expense of the other team that's not playing at the time. So I have big problems with that.
Yeah, beautiful game may not be looking so beautiful if that's the case. Let's talk about the U.S. men, though. The national team in camp. Bruce Arena now running a U.S. men's national team camp for the first time in over a decade. Grant, specifically, what changes is he making?
Well, I had dinner with Bruce Arena out in L.A. on Sunday night and had a really nice long talk with him, and he was really fired up to start this camp this week. And They do have 2 friendly games this month, but they really don't mean a heck of a lot. What does mean a lot is whether Bruce Arena can come in and establish a new tone inside this national team. For a long time now, a lot of players have not been looking forward to coming into the national team camp when Jurgen Klinsmann was in charge. There were a lot of reasons for that. Bruce Arena, his main goal, he says, is to build a team. That's what he did when he was the U.S. national team coach, especially in the 2002 World Cup. He got these guys to play better than the sum of their parts, want to play for each other. And he really looks at that as his main challenge here. Can he set a tone where the players are looking forward to coming into camp? I think that'll happen.
We'll have to wait and see. As for your golazo, something to look forward to this weekend that we just should not miss. Grant, what is it?
Sunday, Manchester United hosting Liverpool in the Premier League. Maggie, this is a great game.
Let's do it.
This is one of the great rivalries in world sports, and both teams are really playing a role in the Premier League race. Man United is on fire lately. If they win this game against Liverpool, they will get within 2 points of Liverpool, which is currently itself in second place in the league. Chelsea had a bigger lead but lost recently to Spurs, and so their gap on the rest of the league is less. So I think we're finally starting to see a race, and I think Man United has a very good chance of winning this game and getting into that race really for the first time in quite a while.
Some weekend soccer to go along with your football. Grant Wall, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Every so often, fans and the media, we have to check ourselves. Chill out, ease up, pump the brakes before we get overconfident or feel like we can't be beat. Here's a look at our new segment. It's called Slow It Down. The first fan base we're calling out, who else? Cowboys Nation. Watch this.
Slow it down.
Congratulations, Cowboys fans. Your postseason starts this Sunday. You shocked the world. Your team won 13 regular season games, earning you the top seed in the NFC. On top of that, your rookies, Dak and Zeke, are now national treasures. All is right in the world. And if you don't believe me, take a listen to these members of Cowboy Nation.
America is better when the Dallas Cowboys are doing great. Because in the words of Wiz Khalifa, we them boys.
Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin. Best offensive line in the game. They say defense wins championships, but they never went against an offensive line like that. Let's go, Cowboys.
Drink it in, Dallas. Oh, drink it in, because there's a good chance your fairy tale season ends this Sunday. Let's talk facts. At this point in time, Dak, Zeke, and myself have the same amount of playoff experience. 0. Kudos to these two for presumably staying home during the bye week, but the fact remains that they haven't played a meaningful snap since December 26th. Rust could surely be an issue, and to think otherwise would be insane. When it comes to the postseason, we know momentum is everything, and there's no hotter team than the squad that's coming into Jerry's world, the Green Bay Packers.
Bro, your stuff is on fire.
Someone better call the fire department.
To say they're on fire would be an understatement. On the defensive side, they forced 18 turnovers in their last 7 games. And you know they'll be looking to avenge that Week 6 loss to these same Cowboys. Remember the last time these two teams met in the postseason? Well, Dez kind of, sort of, maybe caught the ball. Well, stats show that when it comes to the postseason, Dez doesn't catch much. Mr. X averages just 3 catches and 43 yards in the postseason, and that just won't cut it. Honestly, even if Dak has the game of his life, even if Dez Bryant burns the Packers D for 2 scores, no lead is ever safe with Mr. Rodgers behind center. In his last 7 games, Rodgers has thrown 19 touchdowns with no interceptions, which equals a whopping 121.7 quarterback rating. If this comes down to the wire, simply put, I'm going with Mr. Discount Double Check. So slow it down, Cowboy Nation. There's still a couple of games left to play before your team can even talk about the Super Bowl.
Slow it down.
All right, is there a team or a fan base who needs to slow it down? Let us know. Tweet us, or better yet, send us a video. You can find us at SI Now Live on Twitter and on Instagram. That's going to do it for this Thursday episode of SI Now. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern with Mr. WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels. Yes, the Heartbreak Kid is in our studio. Till then, stick with SI.com for all the latest news. And of course, follow us on Twitter. We told you the handle at SI Now Live. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow.